Dr. Jazz.
Thanks for taking the
That
time.
was loud.
Jazz.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Sure.
I have you on so many records, and I've talked basically with everyone, with almost everyone you play with, from Chad and Chris and Steve and Matthew and William, and so I was like, shit, we need to get you on the show.
Oh, all right.
And I want to start our talk with Oblongata, which is the last one I have by you, and it's a killing record. And I wanted to ask you, like, the first question: how do you write music, actually? And I love your melodies, and the grooves. Obviously, the rhythm section helps there. But like, what's your story when composing? How do you approach it?
Well, there are different approaches, and actually, I used a novel for me approach on Oblongata. The longest piece is something that I basically improvised on piano
Oh, okay.
and then transcribed.
Oh, really? Oh,
Other people do similar things like that,
Yeah.
but I'd never done that, and I liked it, and it took me a long time to transcribe it, actually, because I was trying to get the rhythm, even though it's not really in a regular time signature.
Yeah.
But I wanted to be able to portray it in a way that, I could, that someone else could read it and make some sense of it. But meanwhile, because it's really not following a regular meter that you can count off. It's kind of, phrasing things that
Yeah.
I just had to rehearse a lot with Steve.
Yeah.
And he and and what's really common in this music anyway is that you are playing melodies that are phrased loosely.
Yeah, exactly.
And so they might not be the same every time. So whoever has written the music is kind of directing the phrasing, where did it come in and so forth and so on.
Yeah.
So anyway, that piece I did like that. And other pieces, usually I write on piano, and I just, that one I did too, but it's just that it was different, Other pieces I write, I just work on something on the piano and it just develops into something. Sometimes I have an idea in mind. Sometimes I'm just playing on the piano and something comes up. It sounds like something I want to continue working on. And in a way, of course, well, not of course, but for me anyway, it takes a lot more, I would say, kind of composing time when I'm just going through it and thinking what would work best next, or so, something like that. And it takes a lot more work in a way.
Yeah.
That is, brain work. The other one that I transcribed just took a lot of work into, trying to write down what I had played on the piano, and then make it so that when on the page it looked like what I wrote. And I actually did want to retain kind of the feel of the way I did it on piano. I wouldn't have to do that. I could just do something, write some music, some tunes, and then I've certainly done that and changed they were written in like a free way, and then I put them to a time signature, added stuff, and came up with certain kind of rhythms for it. So it just depends on, particularly like if you're doing an album, what kind of variety in the pieces you want. And you don't want everything to sound the same. So
yeah. Do you write specifically like for the players? I mean, did you have Steve, Chris, and Chad in mind, or just like?
Well, I do sometimes and sometimes not. And I can't tell you right now. I'd even have to look at the music again.
Sure.
That is, I can't remember off the top of my head since I recorded this like 2 or 3 years ago now. The pieces, but I do definitely write pieces for the group, particularly if I have something coming up.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Yeah. Is these groups? I mean, are you going to promote these records like also on tour now in the future, or what?
No, I'm not. We don't really gig.
Really? How come?
Because I don't gig that much with my own groups. Okay. Basically, I don't have anybody booking gigs for me, and I gave up a long time ago trying to do it myself. So that's really, if something comes up and someone offers me something, then, we try to make it work. And it also, like for local stuff, that's kind of I end up having to pay to do a gig a lot of times.
Yeah.
I want to, pay everybody unless there's a good guarantee. And so there are not that many gigs like that. I'm playing the 31st and the 1st. One of them's at the New School with Matt Shipp, and that pays pretty well. It's a Eric Dolphy festival.
Oh, beautiful.
And but I don't. And then sometimes with William we have some good gigs. Play at Lincoln Center or something, but not on a regular basis.
Yeah. It's for this music. It's tough. Yeah. True. What about your solo record, the Oceanic, which is also on Rogue Art? How did you approach playing solo saxophone? And I love the solo sax. It's such a different beast than what you guys have to do than us harmonic instrument players, of course. And how did you approach that one, and especially playing solo saxophone? What was your concept?
Well, sorry, I'm just going to stand up for a second and grab something while I'm talking, but where'd it go? Oh, here it is. Hot in here. I'm going to turn the fan on. Yeah, I mean, for solo saxophone, I don't have any, I just go in and improvise. And so that's the way that's the way I always do that. And not that I do a lot of solo saxophone gigs. I do play solo sometimes with pieces that my wife does, or something with film or with dance. Then I'll be playing solo. Of course, I will be in a context that's not just me playing music, because I'm in an environment with, it's like playing with other musicians. It's just they don't make, there's no other sound.
Yeah.
But for this, I recorded, I did a day, a couple hours probably, that was a day, in the recording studio. And I came home and I listened to it, and the weirdest thing about when I did that record, to me, was the whole time when I was doing it, I was thinking, I've never done a solo record.
Yeah.
And somewhere along the line, I remembered that I did this really, ghetto solo record back in the 90s. This guy recorded in his apartment and put it out on CDR.
Oh, really?
That's how bad that was. It's I'm sure it's not really available, but it's called Silver Sun Afternoon.
Okay. Yeah.
And I came across that. I went, oh my God, how could I forget? I didn't really forget. It's just, it was, I never took the release as a CD very seriously because it wasn't even like a real CD.
Yeah.
But so after I had done one day of recording, I listened. I came across that other one. I listened to it. I went, wait a minute, this is really pretty good. And this was from the 90s. So it made me want to go back in the studio and do a little bit more.
Beautiful. Yeah.
So I ended up, just going back into the studio. I mean, I think that playing solo, because I don't do it that much, or listen back to my, if you do it a lot, then you have a certain kind of idea. I think that I didn't have a good perspective on what I was doing until I listened back to it. And I thought, okay, I need some other kinds of stuff in there. And so I did another, hour and a half of recording or something. And then I had to edit through it, which is, when I say edit, basically decide what goes on.
Yeah.
And just use pieces. I didn't change any of the stuff. I just maybe used excerpts of, I don't even remember, a couple pieces. So partially because I didn't want like pieces to be, 13 minutes, all of them or something. And I want, if the more material you have, the harder it is to choose, really. And so it was difficult for me to single out and say, I want, 6 minutes from this one piece. I want this whole other piece, but I want, 8 minutes of another piece. But anyway, eventually I was able to figure something out that I was happy with.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, I love it. It's such a nice. It's your sound, but solo. I mean, I love your work. With the bands and everyone as a sideman. But this is like just you. It's beautiful to hear that. So I hope you'll make more maybe. So.
And it is quite a bit different than other things. So. I was happy to get that out there. Obviously, it's really different from the quartet that just came out. So,
exactly.
I mean, I say just now. It's not just, but they came out together. So,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. You mentioned before that you're going to play with on the Eric Dolphy Festival. Was he an important influence for you when you started, or what was the main reason that you got into improv music? I mean, was there a moment that?
Well, when I was a kid, my brother played saxophone. He played tenor saxophone. And so when I decided to, take band, I actually I wanted to take clarinet, to tell you the truth. I don't even know why, I was in 7th grade. I don't know where I decided clarinet was cool or something. But I was going to play clarinet, but we had tenor saxophone in the house. So I played saxophone. I played tenor. And I played tenor through basically through high school. But anyway, so my brother had a bunch of jazz records. He had the Smithsonian collection of classic jazz, from 1974 or something. And but he did have an Eric Dolphy record. It had like the Iron Man stuff on it.
Oh yeah, okay.
And so I knew about Eric Dolphy, but I think just going into college and getting more serious about music and knowing that that's what I wanted to do, I just kept it, exploring the music as it developed historically. And so it was kind of it was just part of the evolution of the music. There were some people who also, basically friends like Gary Jorns, saxophonist, Matt Shipp, and other people. But when I was in Boston, that I just started exploring, let's say, not straight ahead jazz.
Yeah.
And also, Boston, particularly at that time anyway, I don't know if it's like that now, but it was pretty traditional kind of town in a way, and certainly at Berkeley, which I guess in a way it's not surprising. It's a music school for young people, but I wanted to find out about moving past that, and there wasn't a lot of help with that there.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I just started getting into Ornette Coleman and Albert Ayler and Cecil Taylor and
the usual suspects. Yeah.
And
yeah.
Got out of Boston.
When did you move to New York then?
I think it was 84.
Already. Wow.
Yeah, so I've been here a while now. It's 40 years. Matthew Shipp had moved here, I don't know, 6 or 8 months or something before. And so we had started playing together already at that time. And then when I got to New York, we started playing together a lot. And we had a friend of his, a drummer, who really dropped out of that scene a long time ago. But anyway, we had a trio, and we played a lot.
Yeah, I love your connection with Matt. It's amazing. It's just you've been playing with him for more than 40 years, I guess. So it's quite spectacular.
Yeah, more than 40 years. Hard to believe.
Yeah.
But we have a gig. We have a gig coming up. So that's good.
How was it the first time you guys played together? I mean,
the first time I don't remember.
You don't remember, right? Yeah.
Maybe he does. I don't know.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah.
But it was a totally different. It was, like when you're like 20 years old and you're just kind of like playing free and trying to break. I know for me anyway, I was kind of attempting to sever at that time anyway. Like I didn't want to play anything that sounded like so-called jazz in the traditional sense.
Yeah.
Now I'm not like that now, but at the time I was, and I felt it, looking back, I think as far as developing, a language of my language, it was important to try to figure out how to make music without the kind of traditional elements, so to say,
Yeah, definitely. How did you then connect with all the musicians? another long one is like with Dickey, and you know, you immediately connected with Joe Morris and that trio. Like, how did this connections on the scene begin for you?
Well, I started playing with William so I was saying that Matt and I had a trio with the drummer. Okay, that drummer, Frank Bambera, he'd been living in New York. I mean, he was from Long Island anyway, but he'd been living in the Lower East Side already for some years. I'm not sure exactly how long.
Yeah.
But he'd been down there on Ludlow Street, which was really pretty ghetto then. Not so now, but I used to play with him at his studio apartment, and we talked about trying to get William to play with us. And so I think he called up William and said, "Hey, you want to come over here and play with us?"
Beautiful.
And William actually did it, you know. So, and after that, William started asking me to do things with him.
Yeah.
So that goes back to, 85 or
already. Wow. Okay.
Possibly 86, but no later than 86.
Oh.
And then, so I just started doing various things with him, his stuff. And then I was doing trios. We had a trio with Dennis Charles.
Yeah.
Anyway, I did various trios. And then a little later in the 80s, I started playing with Whit Dickey. And Whit was also a friend of the saxophonist that I mentioned, Gary Joins. They had played together at New England Conservatory. And anyway, somehow or another, I don't know who directly connected me with him, but I just, I called him up and we got together and started playing. So we were doing a lot of duo stuff, we were just playing at his house. And then we were doing gigs with duo, trio, various things that I probably can't remember anymore. And somewhere in that, in that time in the late 80s, I got Joe Morris's phone number and I called him, and I can't remember the circumstances of like when we really first played together, but anyway, that became a regular, he became a regular musical partner back then. Yeah. And so then we started that trio with Whit and Joe. That lasted, I don't know, a few years or something. And so like William and Matthew and Whit and Joe, I started playing with all of them in the 80s.
Oh.
And I guess those are my longest, people. And, I still play with them. I've got a gig with Joe at the end of the month.
Really? Oh, beautiful, man. Fantastic.
Yeah, on guitar.
Yeah.
Not on bass. But I've done some things with him recently playing. Well, no, I did one gig with him playing bass with the trio. And then I've done a couple of gigs with him on guitar in the last, not a lot. I mean, I'm not doing a lot of gigs with him, but we are playing together, and we didn't play together for some years, but we are playing together again, and that's really great, actually.
Beautiful. Yeah.
So, generally speaking, though, as far as making connections with other musicians, it's a lot of times you just run into people and you hear them play, or they play with someone else that you know.
Yeah.
Daniel Levin was someone who was a student of Joe's, and Joe maybe suggested that we get together or something. I don't remember that specifics either, but it was through Joe. But anyway, and so even though, you know, we haven't worked now for a while since he, but, you know, there's always a possibility that I expect we will at some point.
Sure.
Play together some more.
Yeah. How was it? What was the scene like when you began entering it, like in the mid 80s and late 80s or even early 90s? I got a feeling when I talked, you know, to your generation that it was so blooming. You know, you had the downtown scene, you had the improvisers, everything. How was it for you, like, if you look back now at that period?
Yeah, well, yeah, it was in those days in New York, you know, New York was kind of rougher, more raggedy, but, you know, it was more affordable to live.
Yeah.
And there were more venues, I would say, where they just seemed to me to be more venues for us to play in. But of course, also as a, you know, a young person, you really don't.
Yeah.
To a large extent, at least for me, I wasn't really concerned about how much I got paid for gigs. I was just trying to do gigs, and hopefully, you know, it depended on the circumstance that the other people in the band got paid. You know, I can't, you know, but and of course it was the 80s and 90s, so money was a little bit different, but you know, but there also, like I was saying earlier in the interview, it started to get to a point where I wouldn't feel, you know, I would feel bad if people weren't getting paid because, like, you know, it's a drag. So, you know, if you, you know, I still do gigs with people where maybe we don't get paid much, but, you know, there's something down the road, and, you know, or it's a long-term relationship that you don't really mind.
Yeah. So was it tough for you becoming a band leader in that period? I mean, did you feel, or was it a fairly easy transition? I mean,
I don't know. I just, it was tough. I don't know, trying to get decent gigs.
Yeah.
I didn't have a problem with being a band leader. You know, I wrote music, and I just got a text from Mahakala because we have a new release coming out.
Oh wow!
I got that on the phone with you.
That's a good timing since one of the next questions will be what's coming up. So
yeah,
it's like we planned this.
Yeah, you know, I didn't have problems being a leader in groups. You know, but like I say, there were limits on what I thought I could do with gigs. And you know, there was, when the Vision Festival started, there were certain things, certainly with the festival, but then also all kinds of series. There are always, Arts for Art has lots of series, you know, different seasons. You know, they're not big like the festival, but there are opportunities to play, and there's usually some money.
Also, we mentioned William Parker before, and he's a little bit older than you. And how was it like for you when you started working with him as a sideman, and what was his approach as a band leader towards you guys? I mean, you were like obviously a group of friends also, but still. What did you learn, let's say, from him?
Well, he was he's like always working on music, and always has a lot of projects that he's doing or that he wants to do, and some of them, are long term, and some of them are not. But we started doing the Little Huey band,
Yeah.
the big band, I think in 1994. And, he would bring in charts that had some notes on it, some colors on them, some graphic kind of notation. Sometimes there were melodies, sometimes. And then we also, sometimes there was no music when we would do performances, and but there's the concept that you would call self-conduction, which would be kind of among groups, subgroups within the band, whether it's saxophones or brass or any mixture, maybe start kind of signal in some ways, and verbal and nonverbal, or just start playing certain things and other people join. And so the kind of development of concept of improvising developed was like it was a different type of thing. I'd never done that before, but it was natural. I was a young person and I was playing improvised music. It just was part of playing music to me. It wasn't weird or anything. But I've always, I've done a lot of small group stuff with him, obviously, for a long time, and he always has lots of music, and but the music is it's kind of like never played the same way twice. It may be even quite a bit different on the performance than it was in the rehearsal.
Mm.
And then it depends on who's in the band, as far as the way that that develops, and who shows up for the gig and who couldn't make the rehearsal. But there's a very flexible flowing state. He's never, like, if I tell him something comes up and I can't make the rehearsal, he says, don't worry about it. And I have been playing his music for 30 to 40 years anyway. So, it's not a problem for me.
Yeah.
But he's a very generous, super generous person. And, it's always a joy to play with him. So,
yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. Did you ever have a connection with David Asware as well? Since those guys, played with David so much.
Oh, well, I never played with David. I played with most of the other members of his band,
exactly,
in some form or another. Because I played with Susie, the bar was in the band, and of course Matt Shipp and different drummers.
Yeah.
I played with probably most of the drummers sometime or another, but I definitely never played with the band.
Oh,
but But I like the band. I like David, and
Yeah, and I just wanted to ask you, since
just was not.
you have so many
Yeah.
common people, and
Because David did invite people to play with the band from time to time.
Yeah.
But and I know he said some good things about my playing, but he never, invited me to play with the band. I'm not sure what I would have done anyway. David is so much saxophone
yeah,
that I would have felt kind of like I really don't know what to do, but I would have done it anyway. That happens sometimes. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but it's a gig. It's my gig that I have to play, and I'll figure out how to make it work.
Yeah, definitely. Beautiful. Rob, you just got a message about for new albums, and there was kind of my question, like, what are your upcoming projects, and what's coming up out this year or in the upcoming months, or?
Well, I have something coming out on Mahakala, and he's not putting out CDs anymore. But let me see, what's it called? I just looked at it last night. Anyway, it's a trio with Brandon Lopez and Juan Pabletti.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Oh God, William always says his name wrong, and now he made me mess up. Juan Pablo Carletti. Call him Juan P. That's easier. I'm going to tell you the title of it in just a second because I just looked at it. It's where is it? In there somewhere.
But I'll follow. I mean, if it's coming out now slowly.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm
Oh, no worries. But beautiful.
Yeah. Okay.
Nice
because also my wife did the artwork for it, and I was just looking at it yesterday because I thought it's been a while. Like, I submitted all the stuff to him many months ago, and I actually forgot. And he just asked me if we had the artwork. We both forgot, but I had sent it in, and so I forget what it's called. Anyway, it's a trio. It's improvised. There's no, prepared compositions.
But beautiful. Fantastic. Yeah. What about the quartet? Still have plans with the quartet that we mentioned before with Steve?
Well,
Chad and
nothing specific.
Okay.
Right now.
Okay.
We have the Vision Festival is coming up, and I'm doing it's not my band, and it's a collective basically. Steve Swell is kind of like the point man for the festival, but it's nobody's a leader on this, and it's me and Steve, Whit Dickey, and sorry to say, I don't know. There's a pianist in the band. I don't know his name.
Okay.
Well, actually, could even be her name.
Yeah, exactly. But beautiful.
Because I was asked to do this a few months ago, and I said, yeah, sure. And I didn't recognize the name of the piano player. But Steve approves the pianist, so I'm going to take his word for
it. Definitely. Yeah, beautiful that you play with Steve. I love Steve. Yeah, fantastic, man.
Yeah, Steve has been playing with, like we did Raining on the Moon.
Yeah.
We were in France, and we're going to Spain in July. I think Steve is on the saying that, and actually, no, I can't remember, but I think he is, because we used to have Louis Barnes played trumpet on that, and now Steve has been filling in that chair.
Beautiful. So fantastic. So you're coming to Europe in July, or still later also? Do you have some tours coming up?
Yeah.
Europe, or?
Just the one gig in July.
Okay.
San Sebastian.
Okay, beautiful. Yeah.
I would have maybe had something else, but I told this guy in Austria I was going to be there, and I gave him a lot of time, and he said, "Oh, great, I'll set up a gig," and I gave him some dates.
The usual. Yeah.
And then he never responded to any emails, and then eventually, like, I don't know, a few weeks ago, he sent me an email and said, "Hey, I've got you down for this weekend in Austria." I said, "Well, it's way too late. I already got." I mean, so I would have had maybe something else, but I had to tell him, "Well, I can't.
Yeah.
You didn't get back to me, and I sent you like 5 emails, and so." Anyway, it's one gig. It's one very good gig, and so it's not really a tour, but I'm looking forward to it.
To go to Europe, yeah, nice. Well, I hope to catch you next time. I'm in Slovenia, so if you're going to be in Austria or something, drop me a line, and I would love to see you live when you get together for a beer or something. So, but beautiful.
I was getting ready to ask you where you're based.
Yeah, I'm in I'm like Slovenia, half an hour south from Graz, kind of, that you get an idea, or.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I played in Graz once, like 20 some years ago.
Okay.
And that's actually where. No, was it that? I can't remember.
Stockwerk, maybe you probably.
There's a festival in some castles or something.
Oh, okay.
In July.
Okay. Oh.
And they said that they wanted me to play there.
Okay.
But they didn't really take care of business.
Yeah.
So
but hopefully
I'm
soon.
not doing it.
Hopefully soon, man. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe next. Yeah, I said, let me know next time. But so
definitely cool. Rob, I'll leave you a nice. What is today? Wednesday afternoon in New York. So, and I'll slowly depart to bed. But thanks for sharing some of these thoughts, man. So appreciate it.
All right, you're welcome.
Yeah, and hope to catch you in Europe one day soon.
Yeah, well, I hope I'll be there a little bit more.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thanks.
Take care. You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.